Hi, I'm Gregory Paulini, and in this episode of Table Saw Techniques, I'm going to show you how to cut box joints and finger joints using your SawStop table saw. So stick around. Box joints and finger joints are virtually the same joint. Their only real difference is the width of the pins that make up the joint. They're an excellent joint for drawer construction, and they actually offer more glue surface than a dovetail joint. So they're really strong. And if your plan is to build any furniture in the style of green and green, well, box joints are a prerequisite for that style. Building box joints on your SawStop table saw is really straightforward. And all you need is a jig like this. It's simple, it's shop made, and I'm going to show you how to make this jig and then how to use it to cut finger joints or box joints. I've removed the standard blade and the standard brake cartridge, and I've installed the dado brake cartridge and a stacked dado blade into my SawStop table saw. And it's important that you know that SawStop recommends only using 8-inch stacked dado sets with a maximum thickness of 13/16 of an inch. Now you don't want to use this kind of dado. This is a wobble dado, and it's not recommended in your SawStop. It may not engage correctly with the dado brake cartridge. Also, don't use molding heads or sets with solid plate interior chippers, as neither brake cartridge is designed to stop those type of dado types. Previously, I prepared the stock for my joint, and this is just 1/2 inch thick, and it's 2.5 inches wide. My intention here is to create box joints that have 1/2 inch wide pins. It should be a pretty even spacing. It should look really good. Now to cut this, what I want to do is I want to raise my dado blade, which is already set at 1/2 inch wide. I want to raise that to just a hair deeper than the thickness of the stock. And the easiest way to do that is sneak up on that thickness. I start by laying the drawer stock or the joint stock up against the miter fence and drawing a line. And now I'll just raise the blade height bit by bit until I just sneak up on that line. But before I cut anything, I'm going to put on my safety glasses and my hearing protection. I'm just sneaking up my saw blade height until I just touch the layout line. It might take a few passes to get it just right. There, that looks really good. Alright, that's the first step of making this jig. The second step is to create a locating pin. And the locating pin only has to be 1/2 inch thick stock that's going to fit into this notch that I just made. We're going to use that to position the drawer sides or the joint material against. Now I want to make sure that this pin doesn't move while the jig's in use, so I'm going to glue it in place. There we go. And now I'll clamp it. There we go. And now one of the toughest parts, I've got to find something else to do in the shop for about an hour until this glue sets. Alright, seriously now. It's been a while, the glue is set, it's safe to reposition the jig and move on to the next step. And the next step is critical. What I want to do is I want to disconnect my auxiliary fence. And I need to move my auxiliary fence over the exact same width as my spacer. So I've got some remnant spacer stock. I'm going to put it in between my blade and my locating pin. And this fit is critical. That looks pretty good. Now I'm going to attach my auxiliary fence back to my miter gauge. Alright, and now we're ready for the third step of making this jig, and that is to make another clearing cut. That's it. The jig's all done, just 3 steps. So now to use the jig, I'm going to take one of my boards, slide it right against the locating pin, and I'm going to clamp it to the miter fence just so it doesn't move on me. And I'm going to make a pass. I'm going to unclamp the board, lift it up, and place it on the locating pin. And I'll clamp the board back in place. Now I just make another cut. Alright, the blade stopped. It's safe to get in here. So one of my boards is done. Now I've got to make the corresponding pins for the second board. And to do that, I'm going to line my board up so that its edge is even with the notch that the saw made. Now I'm going to line this board up even with the inside edge of the notch. There we go. Okay, now I will clamp this in place and make another series of cuts just like before. And just like before, I'll unclamp the workpiece, slide it over against the positioning pin, reclamp it, and make another pass. And I'll just repeat this process until I run out of material. Alright, blade stopped. Now the moment of truth. And there should be a little bit of a friction fit there. And that's a good joint. And that's how simple it is to make a box joint or a finger joint using your SawStop table saw. Be sure to join me again for another episode of Table Saw Techniques.